Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm back again with yet again another movie review, and today I will be talking about the latest sci-fi film from director Gareth Edwards, the creator, written by Gareth Edwards and Chris Weitz, starring John David Washington, Gemma Chan, Ken Watanabe, Sturgill Simpson, and Allison Janney. Now this film has gotten a lot of buzz. One, because this is Gareth Edwards' first feature-length film since he did Rogue One back in 2016. So it's been quite a long time since we last heard from Gareth Edwards. And also the fact that this is an original sci-fi film, an industry that's full of sequels, spin-offs, franchises, what have you. Here comes, well, I don't want to say a wholly original sci-fi film, but certainly something that stands on its own accords as something different from what we've seen in the past. And the story essentially follows this soldier who's sent by the U.S. Army in their war against the East and the AI, and essentially send him to retrieve a weapon that can alter the course of the entire war depending on who has it. And then of course it ends up being in the form of a child. And you can probably guess what happens from there. Look, I think Chris Stuckman made a great video about the state of sci-fi and the landscape of modern-day blockbusters and studio franchise movies. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. Though I'm sure most of you who watch this channel do watch Chris Stuckman. But I think he made a lot of great points in that review, especially about how films are repurposed by taking other narrative threads from movies from a similar vein. Because let's be straight up and upfront about this. This film takes a lot from other sci-fi films like District 9, Avatar, Blade Runner, Star Wars. I mean, the list goes on. And you know what? That's okay to an extent, because while I do feel certain parts of this movie go a bit unexplored and underdeveloped, I think it in of itself is very inspired, because the biggest thing I can praise this movie on is the visual effects. You look at this movie and you're like, there's no way this was made for $80 million. And yet here it is, looking better than The Flash, which had an abysmally larger budget compared to this. And it's kind of sad to see, because this is something studios can take a big lesson from. Using the budget and stretching it out so you can get the most essential elements of your film right. And I think that's what Edwards and the crew did here, because this is so creative. The designs of these robot AI are really, really unique and groundbreaking visually. And of course, I mean, the camera work here by, of course, the Academy Award winning Greg Fraser, but also Oren Soffer, who is a new name to the industry here. And really, you got to keep an eye out for this guy, because he certainly has an eye for movies and really capturing something truly magnificent and beautiful on camera. And that's the thing, from a technical standpoint, this film is top-notch. The Hans Zimmer score, yet again, another feather in his cap, another great score in a year where he's just churning them out between Oppenheimer, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I mean, this guy is just on fumes, as he's always been, but especially here, I think this is definitely a huge standout. But yeah, I mean, back to visual effects, I really don't see how this film could lose the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. It's hard to imagine a film coming out this year that tops this in any way, shape, or form. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And I think, obviously, a lesson that studios can learn, and which is one reason why you should absolutely see this film. Because whether it is derivative in certain areas or not, the fact that something like this exists is kind of a miracle in today's landscape. So please do yourself a favor, do the filmmakers and the cast and crew of this film a favor, and go see this on the big screen. See it in IMAX, because I saw it in IMAX, and that's certainly the prime way to see a film like this. But yeah, I mean, whether the story may be simple or what, it is effective in a lot of ways, and really kind of thought-provoking too. This film brings up a lot of interesting points about how the government uses AI, how it can be seen as the next evolutionary step, and also begs the question of how maybe at some point our own likeness could be replicated for said AI. I mean, there's so many ideas going on here, and I know a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, its stance on AI is very troubling considering where we are. Well, one, you know, we still have to see how AI develops, and yes, it is a scary idea. I don't disagree. But two, I think within the context of the world it's setting up, I don't care. This is a science fiction movie. Get over it, it's fine. You know what I mean? Because yes, film is supposed to reflect our reality in some way, but also, if you're telling a story from a different world, from a different perspective, I don't think things need to be, you know, 100% to scale. And I think that's the case with this film and how they talk about AI, because I found it to be alright, and I think is very effective for what it is in the story, and a very moving one at that, because yet again, this is a film I was very moved by. A lot of that has to do with the performances. John David Washington turning in another solid one, though I think there's a couple of questionable moments acting-wise with him. He still has to prove himself a little bit more, I think. And Madeline Yuna Voiles, who plays the super weapon in this movie, a newcomer, in fact, who really is such a standout in this film and kind of the heart and soul of the movie in a lot of ways. And I really can't wait to see what she does next, because if she didn't work as well as what could be seen as a machine, the humanity she brings to it, the emotion she brings to it, it's truly, truly awe-inspiring. Really excited to see what she does in the future. And the rest of the cast is solid too. But those are really who you focus on the most. And I will say there's a couple of maybe questionable performances, but it isn't really anything that will bring the movie down, so I won't even bother to mention it. But, you know, it's really the story between those two actors and their characters that really make you buy into this narrative, because I was thoroughly riveted for most of this movie, especially the third act, which is so well done, so beautifully put together, so tense. Everything you can imagine in a third act is there, and the way they conclude the story is quite wonderful as well, if you ask me. I think if I watch this again, I could even love it. But yet again, it's those similar story elements and beats, and the fact that they seem a bit underdeveloped at points is what's really going to hold me back from quite loving this. Because once again, this is such an original sci-fi movie. I give a lot of props to Gareth Edwards and everybody involved in this, and it makes sense that he was gone for so long after Rogue One to craft something this articulate and immaculately made is really an achievement in and of itself, like I said. And yeah, really excited to see this one in the future. Definitely going to win an Oscar or two, especially the sound mixing as well is out of this world, no pun intended. And there's a Radiohead needle drop in here, which is just, oh my goodness. It was so crazy. They did not have to go that hard, but they did. And yeah, this film is something, once again, you should really check out. The fact that this is being made, we need to support movies like this. We don't need more movies like this failing at the box office. And I can't stress how important I think the movie-going experience is for cinema lovers and just in general. And yeah, I'm going to give the creator an 8 out of 10. Really, once again, you don't want to miss this one. And more than anything, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it, because this is getting a bit of a mixed response from the story standpoint, which I enjoyed overall. And so I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments below. And of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here for the first time. Going to bring more content very soon. Sorry this one took so long. My whole schedule got thrown off by some unforeseen circumstances, as it usually goes. And I know I'm getting this one up a bit late, but I knew I had to talk about this movie. And as I said, more movie reviews will be coming your way very soon. But until the next time, you take it easy and I'll see you later.